So you want to keep all your gig details organized and in one place so that you can avoid the barrage of texts and emails on gig day, or maybe your band members are struggling to remember you even have a gig in the first place. Well, stick around because in today's video, we are talking about the best shared calendar app for wedding and event bands. Now, if you're new here to Back on Stage app, welcome. We are a web platform for blue-collar musicians, bands, and DJs who want an alternative to all the messy spreadsheets, email chains, and text threads that we're all so used to living on. We're a live music booking management software that lets you generate revenue and gig more by combining lead generation, client follow-up, invoices and contracts, income tracking, musician scheduling and payouts, set lists, and so much more into one easy-to-use app. All you've got to do is head over to backonstageapp.com to check it out and start your 30-day free trial today. Okay, so back to our topic today. I'm going to get started and jump right into the Apple Calendar app here. So as with all things Apple, I really love the design. It's really nice and clean. But I have set up a sample gig here to point out a few things, and let's just jump right into that. So as you can see, I've entered some description text in here, and my first qualm with the Apple Calendar is that no formatting of the text is allowed inside their event descriptions. This is kind of a big drawback. I would love to be able to bold some of this text, maybe underline, maybe italicize, and include links in my description right here. And Apple won't let you do any of that. They are trying to control the design of their app at all costs, and they've taken away the ability for you to have any say in that, which is not incredibly great considering that for any live entertainment booking, you're probably looking at well over 200 data points, many of which are gonna have to show up in this description if you're gonna be sharing this with your band members. And it just makes it really hard to dump it all in there when there is really no visual differentiation between any of that data. The other thing I've noticed here is that when you add invitees in the Apple Calendar, it doesn't seem to actually send those out unless your mail app is open and running at the time. Now, for me personally, I found the mail app within Mac to be not that great, and I've switched everything over to Gmail, so I don't even use the mail app. I added myself on here as a test, and I never received this invitation because I didn't boot up the mail app on my Mac. So that's kind of a bit of a big drawback. That kind of scares me as a band leader. I wouldn't want to rely on that if I just made the small mistake of not opening mail today and suddenly none of my band members know about the upcoming gig. That's not so great. So a few really big drawbacks to the Apple Calendar. And of course, if people aren't using Apple Calendar when they receive those notifications from you, assuming they do get sent out, that will look kind of weird if they're using Gmail or a Microsoft product or anything else. Those invites may not show up very well. So that could kind of hamper your process a little bit. So that's the Apple Calendar. I'm going to step over here to Google Calendar now. Google Calendar, I would say, is a little better. Although, as you can see here in the event descriptions, they do allow you for bolding, italicizing, and underlining text in your descriptions, and you can even put links right in your description as well, which I really like. Of course, you can add invitees to these events just like Apple Calendar, but you do face the same sorts of challenges. If people aren't all using Google Calendar, those invitations show up kind of weird. They may not be responded to properly, and things can get lost in translation. So although I would say Google Calendar is better in this case, I would not recommend using it as the be-all end-all solution for communicating all the gig details to your band. So I would like to go another step further and saying why I don't really recommend Google or Apple Calendar, and that is because both of these situations are going to lead you into a very dangerously messy communication situation. Like I said, there are over 200 data points. At Back on Stage, we've measured this, so I don't expect you all to know that with your band bookings, but back and forth communication to confirm people for gigs, getting your set lists up there, attire information, parking information, meal notes, who's on the gig, how much you're paying everybody, all these details come into play, and there is just no way you're going to get this into a calendar app. So you end up creating some kind of an email chain outside of this. And then what's going to happen is your drummer's going to bail on the gig and you've got to get another drummer on board. And now you've got to replace somebody in this long email chain you've got going on. And then somebody doesn't get that. And then they respond to the old email thread. And then the old drummer's back in the loop again. You get the idea. It turns out to be a real mess. Data and communication gets lost everywhere, and you end up having people who don't show up to the gig because they thought it was next week, etc. It's really not a great situation. So what do I recommend instead? Well, I'm going to jump over here into Back on Stage. This is the booking page, call it a day sheet, whatever, inside Back on Stage app, and I'm looking at this from the musician's perspective. So you can see here, I've got the event title, we've got a location, we've got a schedule set up here. I've got all my attire information. I've got meal notes, production, and parking information right there as well. If I scroll down here, I've got a chat area. This is where all the band members booked for this gig can talk to each other so they can work out set list details, carpooling information, and they don't have to worry about who's receiving this, who's on the email chain. This will automatically update as you change the roles, the people who are actually booked for this gig. So I can come over here and see who else is booked on this gig. We've got a pretty sweet lineup over here. And I can also see how much I'm getting paid for this particular booking. In the tasks section here, you can see I've created a task to myself. I have to learn this new song we're doing. And over here in files, my band leader has uploaded some load-in instructions for me, which I can get as well. And then of course, in the finances section over here, I can see again how much I'm being paid and the fact that I have not been paid yet. Back on Stage will also automatically generate an invoice for me and mark this as paid once the gig is done and I've received my payout. So that makes it really handy to remember that I've been paid. We also have a set list attached right here. And I'm just gonna jump over and show you what that looks like because this is a super handy feature. I just have to show you this. So within the set list inside Back on Stage, there's a ton of information here. We've got notes from the band leader. We've got reference recordings, we've got sheet music, and all the information I would need to be able to learn all the material leading up to the gig. And if I want to print a copy of this set list, I can clean it up a bit by turning off all those links, and then just hitting the print command on my computer will generate this nice list that I can print off and bring to the gig if I'm old school and don't want to use an iPad or something like that. So just a quick side note there. So coming back to the booking page here, I'm going to switch over to the administrator view now. So we've been looking at this from the musician perspective. Now I'm switching over to the admin perspective. So as a band leader, you can have your client information in here. You can have payment details going on there. Coming down here, we've got a finances tab with a lot more information. I can see all the musicians I have to pay, and I can actually take action on those as well. I even have a client tab in here where I can back and forth email my client, see their contract and invoice that I've made for them, see files that I've exchanged with them, and so on. So there is a ton of information in here. Good luck trying to get any of that into a Google or iCalendar situation. It's just not going to happen. If you are a band that's gigging once or twice a year, go ahead, use Google Calendar and get a messy email chain going on. That's probably going to work for you. But if you want to scale up your business and you really want to grow and take your business to the next level, you really need to think about things that are going to allow you to scale and grow, and tools that are going to allow you to do that in a really elegant manner. So coming back over here, I want to show you, this is my actual Google Calendar, and these are all the bookings I have. Now I just said don't use Google Calendar, but here I am using Google Calendar. So what's going on here? Well, let me show you this. What's going on here is this, all these bookings are actually being fed to my, to my Google Calendar from Back on Stage app. And as I open this up, you can see here, I've got all the schedule information here, and I have a link right here. When I click on that link, that's what's going to drop me right back into Back on Stage for me to get all the rest of the gig information that I need. So as a band leader or as a musician, when you're in your Back on Stage account, all you have to do is head over here to your profile icon and hit the subscribe to your BOS calendar button right here. That is going to synchronize your Back on Stage gigs with your Google Calendar so that everything in Back on Stage will show up on your Google Calendar like it has for me. Now, that's super handy, but if you are a die-hard Apple Calendar or maybe you're a Microsoft person, You can also synchronize this with those platforms, but you still have to go through the Google Calendar method. We prefer Google Calendar because of all this great formatting, like I mentioned earlier. But what you can actually do is come into the settings of your Google Calendar here, click on the wheel, go to settings. And when you're inside there, go and find your Back on Stage calendar that was created for you. And then from there, if you scroll down to the bottom here, integrate calendar, you'll see all these other links. You can use this one on the iCal format if you want to plug it into Apple, or any of these other formats if you want to take it anywhere else. So that's how you can embed this calendar into your other workflows if you're using other calendar devices. And one last tip before I go here. A lot of people ask, hey, I'm afraid I'm going to forget about my gigs. How can I configure reminders? So the really great part about using Google Calendar in conjunction with your Back on Stage bookings is that within Google Calendar, again, if you come over to the settings, find your Back on Stage calendar in the left navigation here, and come down here and click on all day events. What you can do within Google Calendar is set up notifications so that any of the events you have within this calendar, for example, I've set one up here. It's going to email me one day before the gig at 9 a.m. to remind me. And that shows up as an email. Alternatively, you could set that up as a notification. That would be like a push notification if you've got the Google Calendar app on any of your devices. So those can be super handy as well. And a side note on that is that you do have to select this all day event notifications as opposed to the event notifications, which are right above, because Back on Stage is going to push all of your bookings to your Google Calendar in the form of all-day events. We just have too many schedule fields going on to be able to predict exactly when this event actually ends and starts for you as an individual. So as a result, these show up as all-day events in your calendar with the actual schedule here in the description for you to reference. So once again, that's inside your settings, inside all day event notifications, and configure your notifications there however you need them to remind yourself about all the upcoming gigs. Awesome. So that is my opinion on the best calendar workflow for your band in a shared calendar situation. Again, we are starting with the Back on Stage platform, and we are connecting that out to your to your Google Calendar, which of course can also connect from there to Apple or Microsoft Calendar products as well. So this is a really great way to keep all of your band members on the same page, having all the right gig details in the right place so that nobody goes to the wrong venue at the wrong time ever again. So again, if you're new here to Back on Stage, thanks for checking us out. Please go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons if you haven't done that already. We've got plenty more live streams, great live streams like this coming your way. And if you would like to check out Back on Stage app and learn more, once again, head over to backonstageapp.com. We do have a 30-day free trial you can check out, and we hope to see you on the other side. So thanks again for watching, and have a wonderful day.